And in the last 12 months, we've managed to farm out 3 of those wells for a total farm out value of about $240 million. In the process, we've picked up a couple of very big global international partners in Ken Energy of the UK and ConocoPhillips of the US. Don't need any introduction. And we are about to complete the first of the wells that both Ken and Conoco have farmed into our project in Senegal. We'll be carried through the drilling of the second well in Senegal, and on the other side of the African continent, we'll be carried through 2D seismic exploration program and a well onshore in Kenya. I'm happy to report that early on in the well that we're drilling at the moment, we recovered some oil to the surface, which is always a milestone in drilling deep water wells with 1,500 metres of water. It's nice to know that there's some oil down there. It was recovered from a secondary target, and it goes very well for our primary target, which is deeper in the section. And I'll show you some slides to explain that shortly. We have about, P50 or best estimate basis, about 8.5 billion barrels of prospective resources in our portfolio across all of our assets in Africa and our 2 blocks in the northwest shelf of Australia. It sounds big, it's all big frontier exploration acreage. You certainly don't attract partners like ConocoPhillips and Ken unless you have big upside potential in the projects. We currently have about just under $40 million in cash, and although I'm going to talk to you about Senegal, which is where all our activity and drilling is happening at the moment, I'm also going to talk to you about Kenya, which is a fantastic project from the east coast of Africa, which is about to unfold. In terms of who are we? Corporate snapshot. Our ASX ticker is FAR. Not too tricky, that one. We have a lot of shares on issue. FAR's been listed for nearly 30 years in the ASX, and it's had a number of different lives during that time, hence a lot of bits of paper out there. On Friday, share price closed about 8.4 cents, which gives us a market cap of just over $220 million. In terms of our board, I'm the managing director. We have a small board with a lot of experience. Nick Lim, our chairman, is also executive chairman of Mineral Deposits, which is an Australian mining company, who are developing a mineral sands mine in Senegal. And there are some terrific synergies between Nick's company and FAR. Nick at some point was employing 1,600 people from the mine site in the building process for the mine in Senegal. And it was wonderful for a small company like FAR that has 9 people worldwide to be able to tap into mineral deposits, contacts at government level, and to help us with logistics as well. We've got some world-class acreage in our portfolio. Across Africa, acreage offshore. The country of Senegal is shown here in blue. Dakar is at the tip of the peninsula, you can see at the very west of the country. It's the capital. Our acreage is shown in red, and there's not too many neighbours around who are doing a lot of activity. Farmer together with Ken and ConocoPhillips really are at the cutting edge of exploration offshore Senegal at the moment. In the 2 wells that we'll be drilling offshore, we'll be testing 1.6 billion barrels of prospective resources out of a total of 3.5 billion barrels that we've mapped in prospectivity offshore in our acreage. The prize is truly enormous in this part of the world. So what have we got offshore? You can take a look at our acreage position shown in red in the bottom left diagram. The area in the hatched white is the area that we have our 3D seismic coverage. 3D seismic is our main exploration tool that we use in offshore exploration. And in the big image, the area that we have our 3D in has been blown up. And all the different coloured blobs you can see on there are the prospects that we've mapped on our 3D seismic. They fall into 2 main families, separated from those that are up on the shelf and those that are in the deep water. And the shelf edge is marked with a black dotted line that you can see. We'll be drilling a well in the deep water, which is the well annotated Fan 1 that you can see, and it's in about 1,450 metres of water. And then in not so deep water, but in most people's views quite deep water, in 1,100 metres of water, up on the shelf in a well that we're calling SNE1. We'll be testing, or we are at the moment testing, about 900 million barrels of recoverable oil in Fan 1. We've already found some, a secondary target, I'm very pleased to say. And we'll be testing about 600 million barrels of oil in our SNE1 well on the shelf. In all of those coloured blobs that you can see on that slide, the prospectivity totals 3.5 billion barrels. So you can see that a company like ConocoPhillips is very interested to come into an exploration program like this, where there's enough upside potential to keep $100 billion company happy. This is a cross-section to show you the environment that we're drilling offshore Senegal. It's a seismic section. The Fan 1 well that you can see annotated on there, we're nearly at the base of. We discovered oil, one of the top fans that you can see annotated in green. In oil and gas, we talk about having a working petroleum system. And what that means is that we have a source rock, which is where our matter is being cooked and percolating hydrocarbons. And then we have a seal and a trap. And if we have a known source rock that's working, we have a trap that manages to trap these hydrocarbons when they're migrating out of the source rock. And then we have a seal that sits on top and keeps those hydrocarbons in the trap. We know we have what's called a working petroleum system. We've proven that already in our Fan 1 well, and we're looking now to prove a deeper working petroleum system as we drill on deeper in the hole. We're going to be TDing, or reaching total depth, at just under 5,000 metres. So this is a very deep hole, and at the moment it's budgeted $160 million. So not cheap either. Second well we're drilling, we've already drilled what's called the top hole, and once we're finished drilling Fan 1, we'll be moving on to drilling the SNE1 well. As I said, it sits in about 1,100 metres of water, and we're drilling down to about 3,500 metres below the surface. First well we're drilling is in what we call a stacked fan plate. lot of information about drilling progress to date. Rest assured, we're getting close to the end of the first hole, and we'll be putting something out very soon in conjunction with our partners, of course. So we've got some oil in the hole, which is great news, and we've got this huge, significant upside potential if this works. So I'm going to skip you across to the other side of the continent now. We're going to do a look at Kenya. We've got 2 blocks offshore Kenya, and for far, this is the next best thing. I like to think that we've built a portfolio of opportunities, not just being a 1 or 2 market. So we've got a very large acreage position in what's called the Lamu Basin. You may have heard about the Rovuma Basin to the south, offshore Tanzania and Mozambique, where there's been about 120 TCF of gas discovered and proven in the last 3 years by a number of multinational companies. To put that in perspective, that's about the same amount of gas reserves that we have here on our own ice shelf of Australia. It's an enormous amount of gas that's been discovered. In Kenya, however, we're chasing oil, and we have participation in 2 blocks. We have 60% of the northern block of L6 that we operate, and we have 30% of the southern block of L9 non-operated. Kenya's been a fantastic place to be exploring. We've been there since 2005, and we are the longest standing offshore operator in Kenya, which is saying something. We're seeing a huge shift in the number of operators coming through. We used to have a lot of small companies exploring in Kenya, and now we are by far the smallest operator in Kenya at 200 million market cap. We're surrounded by huge multinationals like Total, Anadarko, BG, Statoil, Eni, just to name a few. There are a number of plays emerging off Kenya. It's a fairly unexplored and virgin territory there. And the key play that's emerging that we're exposed to in our blocks, and we're looking for a partner to come and drill with us, is the Miocene reef play. So built up along the coast of Kenya in geological time, we've had reefs built up and subsequently drowned, and hopefully filled with oil. We have a lot of confidence in this play, and as you can see on this map here, the very light blue blobs that you can see running along the coast through our 2 permits are where we've mapped these Miocene reefs running along the coast. BG drilled in the southern 2 blocks a well called Sunbird, and they announced the results back in April this year, and it was an oil discovery, which was very exciting because these Miocene reef trends tend to be continuous. So if you have oil in one, there's a good chance that you've got oil in a number of these Miocene reefs running up the coast. If we zoom up on L6, which is the block we're operating, we're looking for a partner to drill for us at the moment. We're hoping to get a similar deal to the one we have in Senegal, where we give up some of our 60% equity in order to be free carried through. It's looking like being about a $60 to $70 million well offshore. The blue blocks again are the Miocene reef play that we've mapped here, and down in the south we've mapped a couple of prospects that we're taking to farm out, Kifaru and Kafani West. Each one of those blue blobs holds between 150 and 250 million barrels on a P50 best estimate basis. And in the whole block, we've got upside potential of just under 3 billion barrels of oil. So again, another huge area opening up for us. I'd like to walk you through what these reefs look like in section. So the blue areas you can see here are these reefs. This is sitting up in our block L6, a well called Maridati intersected these reefs about 30 years ago. And I was talking about the petroleum system working. The core from these wells was lost and only found at the end of last year. So we've taken them off to be evaluated, and these are the results from the analysis of the core. So sitting up the top in the green, we have our seal. You can see a thin section there. You can see it's a very tight, compacted rock, and no room for hydrocarbons to migrate through that piece of rock. And that's why it's a very effective seal. If you look down at our reservoir, this is actually a photograph of part of the core, and you can see in there holes, what we call faults, in the limestones, 2 to 3 centimetres in size, which tells us that this is a great reservoir. It's got great porosity and potentially good permeability as well. As you can see on the thin section on the right, which is showing you in blue the free space around the grains that oil can flow through. Down the bottom, we've got a chromatogram showing the types of oils that we found there. So in this Maridati well, there are 1,000 metres of oil shows. And this is what our reefs look like. community projects everywhere that we work. We're very proud of our efforts with local communities. And I'm very happy to say that our fast story is unfolding. It's fantastic that I can come here and tell you that we've closed 3 farm out deals in the last 12 months for $240 million of carry. We have 2 very large multinational partners leading the way for us in Senegal, and we're well down the track to farming down our Kenyan assets as well, and hope to be able to announce before the end of the year that we'll have a partner to drill for us in the offshore in Kenya as well. Where we have enough cash to meet our current commitments, which is always a good place to be, and 5 wells potentially being drilled in the next 15 months. And here's a schedule showing you what our next 18 months look like. At the top it shows Senegal, our 2 wells are locked in, we'll be drilling until more than likely the end of November. And then through Kenya, we've got an onshore well and potentially an offshore well coming in over a year's time. And then in Guinea-Bissau, we're drilling an appraisal well in our project there where we have a small one. I haven't talked about that today, but that's really later on in 2015, early 2016 story for us. In Kenya, to fill in the gaps in that time frame, BG, Anadarko, Total, and ENI are all drilling wells offshore Kenya, so there's going to be plenty of news coming, particularly about the Miocene reef play that we're highly exposed to. Usual disclaimer, where to contact us. So it's been a great year so far. We're really scratching the surface and getting to the base of the first hole. We're hoping to make an announcement in the next couple of weeks to tell everyone what we've got. And bearing in mind that we've already found oil in the hole, it's de-risking everything else that we're doing offshore Senegal. So a great year ahead for us, and I know that there's many FAR shareholders here hoping to bring you all some good news over the coming months. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Catherine. So the final speaker for the day, before we get into the discussion panel, Jeremy Robinson.